Welcome back. We're here today with Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin talking about the future of the state of Oklahoma. And Governor Fallin, I'd like to start before your State of the State tomorrow. We just heard from President Obama with his State of the Union, and he had a couple of ideas specifically about middle-class tax plans and everything else. What did you think of his vision for the country?
Well, I think all of us are for the middle class. We all want the middle class to do good. It's been one of my top goals as governor of Oklahoma is to raise up all people. And certainly the middle class is very, very important. Increase the quality of life, increase the number of jobs, make us have a better business climate for people to be able to invest so we can basically grow Oklahoma. But I have a different philosophy than he has, I have to tell you. He talked a lot about expanding the federal government's role in many different areas. He talked a lot about raising taxes in many different segments. He talked about a lot of free things for people, but those free things always come with a price tag. Somebody's got to pay for that. So I guess you'd have to say I'm more about finding ways for states to be the laboratories of democracy. I don't think you're going to find the problem solved in Washington, D.C. I think you're going to find it in the states, frankly, with the governors. We're the ones who do address various issues that face our states, whether it's health care challenges, whether it's spending issues, which the federal government's certainly done a bad job on debt and deficit, whether it is creating more jobs and better opportunities. It's actually been the states that have been leading the comeback that we've seen, a better economy than what we saw back in 2009. And if you look at Oklahoma, we've been reducing the size of our spending by making government more efficient, more effective. We've been focusing on job creation. We've been reducing our taxes gradually. We've been focusing on improving educational outcomes. All those things help create a climate for investment, and that's why Oklahoma over this past year has had the 4th fastest growing economy in the nation. We've been focusing on growing different industry sectors like our energy sector, which the president actually continues to do things that hurt the energy sector, while the energy sectors create a lot of jobs and raised our per capita income in our state. So there's a lot of differences between what happens on the federal side, what happens on the state side, and I think if the president would look more towards the states and the solutions to the problems that we've been addressing, we could probably grow the national economy much faster based upon some of the ways the states are doing it.
You make a great point. The way our system of government is set up, it's a Republican system across the country where the 50 states, you have 50 voices of which you're one of those. How you've participated in a leadership role with the National Governors Association. What has your role been? Talk about maybe your approach or posture as the governor of Oklahoma with the other 49 across the country.
Well, I was very fortunate last year to serve as the national chairman of all the governors, both Democrat and Republican governors. And when you're the national chairman, you're the direct link between the administration and Congress and the U.S. Senate and the president. And so I had lots of different meetings with cabinet officials, even with the president, the vice president, U.S. Congress and Senate, the speaker. And I was able to lend a voice, not only for Oklahoma and the things that we do differently than the federal government does, but also to talk about the issues that were important to the governors. I'm a big believer in states' rights and that the states can solve problems and can be a good model for the federal government. We have to balance our budgets. We have to create a good climate for investment in our states. We have to reform programs like Medicaid spending that has been growing and growing, and trying to find ways to provide services to our citizens in our state. And I think there's some great lessons to be learned from our states if we could just get the administration to listen to us a little bit more.
So talking about the state of Oklahoma, tomorrow is your 5th State of the State address. Give us a little preview about maybe what is coming this year or what you hope to see as legislative priorities this session.
Well, first of all, be sure and watch it
yes,
tomorrow. It will be, I can't believe it's going to be my 5th State of the State speech, but in general, I will tell you, I'm going to be talking about our economy, keeping our economy strong, creating jobs, opportunity, that good business climate for people to invest. And I'm also going to be talking about our budget. We have a little bit of a budget shortfall this year. We're watching the energy sector and certainly the price of oil that has gone down. It's not the first time it's happened in Oklahoma, and as my mother would say, would not be the last. We've seen these cycles of Oklahoma with the energy sector, but it does pose some challenges for us. I'm going to be talking a lot about the structure of our budget. and how we need to have an in-depth look at our tax incentives, our tax credits, the revenue streams, how we allocate those streams of revenue to our priorities. You know, my priorities have always been education, health, human services, public safety, and infrastructure for our state. How do we really put our money where we want it to go, where it'll have the best impact for our citizens? And one of the things I'm going to be talking about is informed the budget-informed process itself. How do we make informed decisions about how we budget our money, and then we measure the outcome? In other words, let's not be spending money on something and not get a result when we could spend it in a different direction and get the result that we want. So I've asked all of our state agencies to set goals and to measure their performance with the amount of money that they receive to see if we're really doing what we want to be doing. And of course, I also mentioned educational attainment, crime, incarceration, and health as 3 areas that hold us back as a state.
Talking a little bit more about the budget, there's a suggestion this year about the budget process, and should the state alter our approach to our legislative session system and maybe devote one session to the budget or not? What are your thoughts on this issue?
I think it's a very worthy idea and something that we should do. If we could do the budget every single year, because the financial conditions do change. I mean, who would have thought last year the price of a barrel of oil would be half of what it is today? But I think it would be very helpful to help all of us at the Capitol, even the state agencies, the legislators, and other people involved, to really understand where the money goes, and then once again to measure, are you getting what you want to get out of your limited dollars that you have to spend on services for the state of Oklahoma, and then do legislative policy issues every other year. Do the budget every year, legislative policies every other year. I think it's a much better way to run things, and other states do that, and it's worked successfully.
You can definitely hear that private sector experience you talked about before here coming through. One other question about the budget and potential for the budget process this year with that shortfall maybe that's in place. What kind of response are you seeing or hearing from the legislature or from state agencies?
I'm actually hearing a lot of interest in that, and I hope the realization that the budget structure itself is malfunctioning. It's just not working the way it should. In fact, one of my big complaints has been to the legislature, you keep wanting to put more money to education, more money to roads and bridges. We know we got some correctional challenges, or DHS, or child welfare challenges, and we still have this pot of money, but the challenge is that we take so much money dedicated, what we call off the top money. It's kind of like your income that you take home. You have your gross and you have your net. And you have all these things taken out of your gross income, your federal tax, your state tax, your FICA, your Social Security, your health insurance, whatever it might be, retirement, and then you have the net amount that you get. Same thing on the state budget. We have all these things that have been dedicated to go to something, not necessarily bad things, but in the end what's left is 47 cents of every dollar is available for the legislature and myself to be able to decide where that money's going to go. And so all the decisions are already made about the spending before we even have our legislative session. We've got to change that. The system is broke. That's why we need to look at our tax incentives or tax structures, see which ones really create jobs, which ones really grow the economy, create investment in our state, and which ones don't.
We'll be back with Governor Fallin for more right after this.